John Boscawen.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. I rise on behalf of the ACT Party to speak on the second reading of the Marine and Coastal Area Takutai Moana Bill. More, I rise on behalf of New Zealanders throughout the country who oppose this bill, just as my predecessor, former ACT Deputy Leader Ken Shirley, rose in this House in 2004 to oppose the Foreshore and Seabed Bill being rammed through by the then Labour government. ACT opposed that legislation then because it was a travesty, a law that removed from iwi their fundamental right to have their day in court, a law that left Maori feeling like second-class citizens and which has led us to a path of fury, frustration and division. Mr Speaker, ACT's stance on the foreshore and seabed has always been consistent. In 2004, ACT argued that claims to the customary title over the area of the foreshore and seabed should be left to the courts to decide. Today I reiterate that stance. ACT believes that the courts should decide this issue. I reiterate the stance of the ACT Party that we support the repeal of the 2004 Act and oppose the passage of the Marine and Coastal Area Takutai Moana Bill. Because although National and Labour Party claim that the bill restores the right of iwi to have their day in court when claiming customary title over an area of foreshore and seabed, the fact, sir, is that it does not. And so at this stage I want to acknowledge Mr Finlayson, and Mr Finlayson just referred to codification. I'm going to come back to codification very shortly, Mr Speaker, because I want to acknowledge Mr Finlayson's acknowledgement of the speech and contribution by David Parker, because it seems that Mr Finlayson alone in this House is prepared to acknowledge the contribution of an opposite number. Mr Speaker, when the Prime Minister delivered his speech in the opening of Parliament, we had the responses from the party leaders. And Tariana Turi got up there and she said she felt almost ashamed to be a minister in this government, sir, to be supporting this government given the level of unemployment of young Maori. And Mr Speaker, earlier this afternoon, when I listened to David Parker, which Mr Finlayson generously acknowledged, I also felt the same shame. I felt the same shame that Tariana Turia referred to when Parliament reconvened on the first day of this year, Mr Speaker. I felt the shame of listening to the interjections and the contributions of Tau Hanari, Paul Quinn, and more recently joined by Simon Bridges. And, sir, while the leader of the Green Party doesn't want to record and acknowledge those acknowledgements, so they're written onto the record, sir, of Hansard, I am prepared to record them, sir. Sir, this is an issue about two things. It's an issue about tests over customary title and the benefits that come from those tests, sir. And in essence, sir, we have two views. We have one view who say, sir, that the tests for granting customary title and all that comes from it are far too loose, and that far greater areas of customary title, sir, will be awarded as a consequence of the loose tests laid down in this bill. And so the contrary position is the position espoused by people like a number of Maori Party supporters of the Maori Party who came and opposed this bill, and a number of iwi, sir, who said, sir, that the tests are far too tough. And in fact, it was Ngāi Tahu, sir, who came along to the Select Committee in Christchurch. They presented a map of the South Island with a 200-mile economic zone marked on it, sir, and essentially said everything within that 200-mile zone is ours. Mr Speaker, Tariana Turia referred earlier this afternoon to the contribution of the Coastal Coalition. And, sir, I acknowledge, sir, the work that the Coastal Coalition has done, and in particular Hugh Barr and Muriel Newman. Sir, the position of the Coastal Coalition is not the ACT position. It is not the ACT position. Unlike the Coastal Coalition, the ACT Party firmly believe that iwi should have their right to go to court. They should be able to bring, sir, a claim for customary title, sir. But, sir, I felt ashamed when I've seen some of the material put out by the National Party on this particular bill. So I look, sir, here at I have a look, sir, here at an extract from the Beehive website, headed up "Setting the Record Straight." And it says here, you may have heard opponents of the Marine and Coast Area Bill making inaccurate. Well, sir, let me just interrupt my speech and acknowledge Tau Hanare. And Mr Hanare, let me say to you, I felt ashamed at the way you treated New Zealanders who appeared before that select committee. Yes, it is, Mr Hanare. I felt ashamed, and I feel ashamed, sir, Mr Speaker, that I'm supporting a government that plays the ACT members off against the Maori Party members, sir. I feel ashamed, and I felt ashamed to see the way some New Zealanders who appeared before that select committee were treated. And yes, there may have been members who had eccentric views. There may have been members who had racist views. But, sir, the role of a select committee, sir, is to listen to what the public of New Zealand have to say and to treat them with respect, sir, because people who make a submission on law do it, sir, out of the goodness of their heart and what they believe within them. So let's look at the government's website, Setting the Record Straight. And it says here, you may have heard opponents of the Marine and Coast Area Bill making inaccurate claims about the legislation. We want to set the record straight. And so the Beehive website goes on to summarise on a page a few of the key issues. As Mr Finlay said, it's about codification, it's about the tests. And we're down here at the bottom, we have here the opponents claim that the bar has been lowered on the qualifying criteria so anyone can apply. It says here the criteria to apply for customary title is extensive. The most rigorous test is proving uninterrupted and exclusive use and occupation of area of a common marine and coast area from 1840 to the present day. Many areas of New Zealand are not eligible because of this requirement. Well, so that's interesting because it is a very tough test. And so I note that the Prime Minister, in reply to an article by Jim Matson or comments by Jim Maxson, a long-time National Party supporter, in the Sunday Star Times 2 weeks ago, made the same comment. No doubt the article, although it appears under Mr Key's name, was written for him, I suspect, from the offices of Mr Finlayson. But it says here, the test for customary title requires continuous exclusive use and occupation of an area since 1840. And as you can imagine, this is not an easy test to meet, sir. Well, no, it's not a test. It's not an easy test to meet, Mr Speaker, but it's not actually the test. The test, Mr Speaker, is not requiring continuous exclusive use and occupation of areas since 1840, because no sooner had the Attorney-General finished his first reading speech, he actually said, I intend lodging a supplementary order paper to actually change the bill I'm actually presenting back in September, where he said, we're not actually going to have a test that requires you to be exclusive use. We're actually going to allow people to have used it. We're going to allow people to have boated through the area. We're going to allow people to fish through an area. And the mere fact that they have done that does not preclude a iwi or hapu coming along and making a claim and saying, sir, that they've had continuous and exclusive use. And so what the government has tried to do, it has tried to reassure New Zealanders, it has tried to put New Zealanders to sleep, and has tried to say, Mr Speaker, there's not an issue, the government is popular, back the government. And Mr Speaker, the ramifications of this are going to come back to rule New Zealanders for many, many years to come. Mr Speaker, another key issue here, the Prime Minister says here, that put simply, the bill is a new approach to the ownership of the common marine and coastal area, guarantees free public access to New Zealanders. It also protects fishing rights. If you're using the marine and coastal area for something at the moment, then the bill guarantees you'll be able to continue to doing so. Guarantees, Mr Speaker. Well, we're told we're allowed to access an area, but we've got no guarantee that we'll be able to occupy. Now, sir, we're told that there's going to be some 385 changes. Has the government had the courtesy of discussing with the people of New Zealand what those changes are? No, they haven't. We hear this afternoon that a supplementary order paper is going to be lodged in the House tomorrow, sir. We'll be debating that on Thursday. Mr Speaker, the ACT Party is bitterly opposed to this bill. It will deny rights to some who have it and give rights to others who haven't, sir. It is going to take from some and give to others, sir. This is a bill the ACT Party strongly opposes, and we're going to fight it to the bitter end, Mr Speaker, and I only hope that the other speakers in this House are given greater courtesy than what Mr Parker had shown to him this afternoon. Thank you, Mr Speaker.